Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the path to ISO 27001 certification for your organization. Well, we start with a gap assessment where we look at what the organization currently has versus what are the mandatory requirements required by the ISO 27001 standard. So examples of mandatory requirements are organization must have an basically an IT security policy. They must have a security awareness program, ISMS, internal ISMS audit. So based on reviewing what the organization currently has, there may be some things that need to be developed from scratch, and there may be some things that can be leveraged, updated, and there may be some things that don't need any updates. They're as good as what the ISO standard needs. So after that is done, we work on risk assessment. So in the 2013 version of the 27001 standard, the scope and the controls that are implemented are basically based on the context of the organization and the risks to the organization, what industry the organization is, what are the internal processes, what kind of IT footprint the organization has. So it's not a mandatory implementing all the controls that are in the standard. It's you can choose the controls that are applicable to your organization. So so then basically the risk assessment, it's an asset-based risk assessment. So you identify the assets that are in scope for your certification, and then you basically identify the risks, so threats and vulnerabilities, and quantify the risk level for each of the assets. Now this is an area where we feel it's good to go after the first pass of the risk assessment. You confirm the scope, document the scope, and then as you've done some analysis and confirmed the scope in terms of what you want to keep as what are the assets or the processes or departments that you want to keep in scope for your ISO 27001 certification, you might need to go back to the risk assessment and remove some of the assets or add some of the assets based on the scope that has been determined. And the next step is to create the statement of applicability based on the scope and the results of the risk assessment. And here, what it is basically a listing of all the ISO controls, and stating yes, whether it applies, and what the reasoning why this the particular ISO control is applicable to your organization, and or a no, where basically you're listing on why this particular control that is in the standard is not applicable to your organization. And next we select a certification body which is going to actually come in and certify the organization. And the way, a little background about the certification body. So International Accreditation Forum is an international body where a lot of national accreditation agencies are members of. So in the Standards Council of Canada is the Canadian National Accreditation Body. ANAB, or the American National Accreditation Board, is the US equivalent, and UCAS, you must hear about that. A lot of people, it's very well known. So United Kingdom Accreditation Service is another accreditation body. So these accreditation bodies are the standards bodies of different countries, and they're members of the International Accreditation Board. And interestingly, the Standards Council of Canada does not accredit the certifications bodies for ISO 27001. So most organizations that are looking for ISO 27001 certification look for a certification body that is accredited by ANAB, which is a US accreditation board, or the UCAS, which is a UK accreditation service. So the certification body is the one that comes in to certify you, and accreditation body is a national body which makes the certification body eligible to certify you on a particular standard. So that's the distinction. So next, so you've selected a certification body, you've kind of brought them them in the loop in terms of what the scope is, and have have brought them basically on board. And next is basically the readiness stage. We fill out the gaps. Mostly it's, a lot of organizations, what we see is that they need to have the appropriate security policies in place, the governance model in place. We have examples of security policies include information security, overarching information security policy. That's something we have as a best practice. And then within that, there are subcategories. There is an acceptable usage policy that goes out to all the users of the organization's IT environment. While there are some other policies that are specific to the IT department, administrator level, access control policies, how the access should be controlled, password policy, what are the complexities that should be maybe required programmatically, or if technologically that's not possible, we have the users make sure the password meets certain complexity requirements that are established in the policy. Other policies are, with the BYOD, bring your own device policy, that's going out to the users as well who are part of the BYOD program. A remote access policy, antivirus policy. So what are the antivirus requirements that the IT department should follow, but also what the users should do. And typically the user side is listed in the acceptable usage policy. So there is flexibility as long as the controls that are listed in the ISO standard are addressed. You can have them in different policies based on the organization chart or org structure where you work. So the other important part is the governance model. So the tone at the top and the executive and management involvement in IT security of the organization is very important. So that's an area where typically how we implement it is to have an ISMS governance committee which meets every quarter and reviews what the security posture of the organization is. And in terms of how to determine what posture it should be, that's part of the ISMS, or Information Security Management System, where we basically have different reporting. There's the results of the risk assessment, because the first risk assessment is the initial one, but then on an ongoing basis we need to perform these risk assessments on a periodic basis. And during this process of developing the policies, we also determine what schedule should be followed to perform the risk assessment. There's also the security awareness program, which is an important aspect. So the security awareness training should be appropriate to the type of processes or the type of information handled by the organization. And then the other part is the internal audit. So a separate independent function which is outside of IT should audit the information security management system. And the governance committee meets and reviews the reports from the ISMS audit, the risk assessment. As part of the ISMS, we also identify different metrics that the organization should measure and monitor. So the governance committee monitors that and sees how the security metrics are performing. So an example of a security metrics is a security awareness training. So what percent of employees have been trained in the security awareness program, and what is the compliance level of the employees? Other is, what percentage of computers are patched, what percentage of computers are have had a virus, have been compromised by a virus, or which do not have the latest updated virus definition. And that usually happens when you have a remote setup and you don't have like a centralized enforcement, and sometimes you have users with laptops who might not have connected and are not updated to the centralized platform. The other area is disaster recovery and business continuity. That must be there. as part of the ISO 27001 standard. So once all the security policies and procedures have been implemented and set up, we do what is called a stage 1 audit. That's where the certification body comes in and performs a stage 1 review, and they basically at that stage what they're doing is they're coming in and reviewing all the documentation that has been developed, and usually between the stage 2 and the stage 1 there's a 2-month gap, and stage 2 is by the way the final certification audit. Stage 1 is just a preliminary review so that the organization has some time to go back and fix anything that the auditor thinks needs to be resolved or adjusted to meet the requirements of the ISO 27001 standard. So once the stage 1 is complete, they've reviewed the security awareness program, they've recruited the auditor, the certification body auditor has reviewed the policies and procedures. Then basically the ISMS is set up, and now what we need to do is have some time, maybe 2 to 3 months, depending on how the size of the organization and how soon do they want to get certified. Have some time to actually see how the ISMS is working. So ISMS, or Information Security Management System, again is the overall governance model and the policies and procedures that have been implemented. They would be technical implementation. For example, if you have put an IPS, or if you have segregated the network to keep the information more secure. But more importantly, the ISMS is looking at the management of the information, security management, how you're managing the information, what is the overall organization chart, what are the organization responsibilities, is there a separate security officer role in the organization, and what is the level of training of the security officer, and in many cases the officer may not have been completely trained, but they are on the path to training. So what the auditors look at is, is there a plan in place to have things have appropriate security implemented as time goes on, and that's what we are looking at. So intention is not to just if something is not there, remove it. We know everything has a risk, and most organizations create a risk treatment plan, and then follow the plan. So a risk treatment plan is a deliverable from after doing the risk assessment, the first risk assessment, and then on a periodic basis there's a risk assessment methodology that's developed, and that's all part of the ISMS. And then within the methodology and the plan, you've identified the frequency of the risk assessments as well. So let's say the stage 1 is complete. There are some action items or findings that the certification body auditors found, and then those are remediated, and then a security awareness training is performed, and metrics are measured. The governance ISMS governance committee meets, and the management is kind of kept in the loop of how security is being managed by the security function. And during the latter part of the certification process, just before stage 2, an internal ISMS audit is performed internally within the organization. Typically, it's either done by internal audit function. If the internal audit function is not there, it's done by an independent IT security expert or auditor, which is not part of the ISMS. So we have auditors who've come in to do the audit of the ISMS that's been set up by the information security consultants in our team. So once that is complete, the internal ISMS audit is complete. Now the certification body would come in, and they would perform their audit as well, and basically they're doing the final audit for the ISO 27001 certification, and they're leveraging the information that is previously collected from the internal ISMS audit. And if they feel that there is something that's missing, or there's something else that needs to be added, or that's up to the auditor. If they think everything has been done appropriately, they would leverage that. If they think some additional evidence needs to be gathered, or they need to get deeper into a certain area, they would do that. And then the stage 2 audit will be complete. Usually the result is, if they don't find any big non-conformities, they would certify the organization with some items listed that should be remediation items listed that should be corrected before the next certification audit. So the certification cycle is every 3 years, but on a yearly basis, a surveillance audit needs to be performed by the certification body as well. So that's the overall ISMS or ISO 27001 certification process. A few things that that we learned during our engagements with clients is that it's always good to have the certification body in the loop. In terms of pricing, there are a number of certification bodies based in US, and there are one or two in Canada. BSI is a larger organization. Brightline is another organization. The few that we considered was BSI, Brightline, ULDQL, and ISOCOR. ISOCOR is based in Florida, and they have staff in UK as well as US. So the auditor that we had actually flew in from the UK, and they were available over Skype and WebEx for the stage 1 review of details. So that's the overall process that we followed. And if you have any questions, you can surely send me an email. My email address is A as in alpha, A as in alpha, B as in Bravo, B as in Bravo, A as in alpha, S as in Sam, at biztechmasters.com. That will be shown on the YouTube link below as well, in the comment section. So you can reach me over there and send me any questions you have for anything related to IT security or ISO 27001 certification. Thank you.